Hey everyone, Stuart here, hope you're well. Beautiful day here in England. I'm just out walking with this guy, Teddy. And I thought I'd answer a question that I had from one of my online students at fingerstylefocus.com this month. And that was how to deal with nerves, performance anxiety, and the general stress of playing live. So in this video, I'll just give you some of the thoughts and tactics that I've used over 20 years of playing live to deal with that situation you find yourself in when you've got to perform in front of people. Preparation is a huge element of playing live. Knowing what you're going to do and being confident with it. That's why people have set lists. It's just good to know what song comes next. Many people are quite happy just to completely go off script on a performance. That's fine. Some people don't have set lists. But initially, I'd have everything you do pretty well scripted out. From what you're going to say to people. Are you going to walk on stage and speak, or are you going to play straight away? What's the running order of the songs? Think about that running order. What are you trying to convey with the whole set from one piece to another? How long do you have to play for? How long do you have to keep people interested for? A huge one for me is not so much the playing the guitar. I feel all right with that. It's what you say in between your performance, in between each piece. People often completely overlook this. They can play incredible performances and then have this horrible silence for 2 minutes whilst they fiddle with the amp, or they fiddle with the guitar, or they retune, or they just don't know what to say. They just sort of stand there blankly thinking, what do I say? And they maybe make a really bad joke or something. You can have a set list of what you're going to talk about in between each song. Anecdotes, jokes, stories behind pieces are amazing. Everything you play, you should be able to give people a story, because that's going to help them connect more. And again, it's one of those things that's going to help everybody just relax. And I keep saying this, when that room relaxes, you're going to relax. But if you're getting the sense that people aren't interested or they're not connecting, you're going to get worse and worse as your set progresses, and it's going to start feeling like a battle. So planning is everything. Plan things like tuning changes. This is an absolutely enormous one. You might be playing in standard. You go to Dadgad, and then the next piece you're going to play is, say, C, G, D, G, B, D. You're in Dadgad, and you suddenly have a blank about the next piece. The tuning has gone from your head completely. I've had it happen. I've had it happen to the point where I'm trying to find one string. There's just one string, and I can't remember, is it up or down? If you're doing lots of tunings and you're not comfortable with changing tunings between tracks, write the tunings down next to the song titles so you know exactly where you are, and have an electronic tuner. Ears are great. I advocate using ears as much as possible, but live sound is very different to sound in a room where you're unplugged. You get different reflections, different reverberations, and even tuning accurately can be hard. So have your tuner in place and ready so you know exactly where you're going to tune to for the next piece. Another tip is to think about how your audience themselves are feeling. If an audience hasn't seen you before, then they're going to have a lot of expectations and nerves on your behalf. They're going to be thinking, I hope this guy can play. Are we going to enjoy it? What if we don't enjoy it? And that can then get projected back onto you if you're not careful. Think about a comedy club. If you've ever been to a comedy club and seen a comedian die on stage, it's a terrible feeling, because the audience feel bad for him. He knows he's got to carry on. Nobody's laughing, and it's just this great sense of discomfort. So one really good thing to overcome your nerves and the nerves of the audience is when you get on stage, either communicate with them, just make them feel at ease and make them know that you're going to be okay doing this, or have a first piece that you're so confident with that you know you won't have any problems playing. It'll put everybody at ease, and as that room settles, you yourself will settle, I guarantee it. Tuning is absolutely massive. Keep tuning all the way from sound check, warm up, just before you go on stage. Tune, tune, tune. Probably don't change the strings too soon before you're playing. Some people do, and they're fine with it, but strings slipping out of tune can cause a little bit too much stress. Tune to the point where it's just another thing that you've eradicated from your mind. The more of these small things you have, the more they build up. You know, a string's going to snap, a battery's going to die, am I going to be out of tune? String 4 won't stay in tune, I don't know why, but it's not staying in tune. All of these things just build the pressure and build the stress. So if you make sure that you're perfectly in tune and ready when you get on stage, it's one fewer thing to worry about. Another thing that can cause nerves is any doubts you might have about your equipment. If there's a battery that's dying, if your strings have been on for a couple of weeks and you think they might go, get rid of all of those. Think about preparing your equipment so it's absolutely perfect. So you're not going to have any niggling issues at the back of your mind about the sound cutting out, about strings snapping, all those sorts of things. Very easy to do, but amazing how many people overlook that. They think, I'm not going to change the strings, or this battery will be fine. And even if you haven't done those things before the gig, have spares of all of them. So at least you're thinking, well, if that does go, I can just take a few minutes to change them. Understanding that live sound is very different from sound check to performance is really important. You might have a build-up of nerves backstage and walking to the stage, which can then be exacerbated when you plug in and suddenly everything just sounds and feels completely different. The room's full of people, they're dampening the high frequencies, maybe there's too much low end, everything changes, and all of a sudden, again, the pulse rises because it's that unexpected factor. So you have to get used to that. When you're sound checking, you'll probably end up getting the most perfect or close to perfect sound that you want. Beautiful reverbs and EQs. Everything feels great, there's all this balance. But just know that when you actually get to play live, that's probably not quite going to be there. Legislate for it, know it's coming, and on that first track, you can think about EQ changes. With guitar, a big one for me is the top end content, the treble. If there's too much, if the sound engineer dials in too much, then your attack on the strings suddenly becomes far more exposed, almost too much. So a great thing that I think can help with nerves, in conjunction with understanding live sound, is to be able to talk to a sound engineer in terms of frequencies, specific frequencies. A lot of people will say to a sound engineer, oh, it's too bassy, oh, it's too bright, which can help, you know, those kind of adjectives are fantastic. But if you can start thinking in terms of what does 100 hertz mean, what does 200 hertz mean, what does 3K sound like, 5K, 8K, I want more of this, more of that, less of this, that can really help getting you to where you need to be quickly. One player I love for this is Tommy Emmanuel, because when he's on stage, you'll often see him in the first song or the first couple of songs, he'll be just talking to the sound engineer. He's got the confidence just to say, I need less of this, a bit more of that, dial this in, dial this out. Don't be afraid to do that. There's nothing worse than thinking you're going to play for an hour with a terrible sound that's limiting everything you play. We've all been there. It's so bad, and you're just thinking, this feels terrible, probably sounds terrible, nothing I can do about it. There's everything you can do about it. You just communicate with the sound engineer, or you know your own equipment to get you to where you need to be. A huge one is don't forget to breathe. Measure your breathing. You can actually counteract the effects of being nervous by just slowing down your breathing and focusing. Breathe very slowly, breathe very deeply, and that will help you really calm yourself and ground yourself, particularly when walking towards a stage. Another really useful tip is to count the tempo of your first piece. Be counting in your head all the way from the dressing room all the way to the stage. Be counting that tempo you want. Invariably, what will happen when you start playing is you're going to probably end up playing 10, 20, worst case scenario 30 BPM faster than you intend to. And that can mean that you lose control of the piece. I've seen it happen to great players, well-known players, and when you're in, you're in. You can't stop and suddenly say, I'm really sorry, I need to do this again. So count all the way, be aware of that BPM, that tempo. Another thing to think about is maybe don't push yourself too far. If you're new to playing live, then taking your most complicated pieces out is probably not the best idea. You want to perform with pieces that you feel comfortable with. There are different levels to playing live. Sometimes you want to push yourself. It's great to see how far you can go with things, either with a composition or an improvisation. But initially, you want to be thinking, what can I play inside out without thinking about it? Test what you're doing as well. There are different levels of performance. The last thing you want to do is go out first time or early on and play in front of 300 people. It'll feel terrible. Play in front of friends and family first. Then start to get a sense of how it feels to play through a room, a smallish room with 14, 15 people in, because that'll start to feel like a lot more than it is. And it's just going to get you used to playing in front of more and more people. When you've been doing it for a while, a large mass of people and a small mass of people start to become pretty indistinct because you're comfortable with playing and you know what you're doing. But initially, the more pairs of eyes that are staring at you, the more pressure you have. And it's like every extra person is an extra BPM on the pulse rate. Now, when you've done the sound check or leading up to the sound check, it can be very tempting to think, well, one thing that really helps with nerves is booze. So if I just have 5 pints, I'm going to feel great, I'm going to play great. That's probably the worst thing you can do. Nothing wrong with maybe having a bit of a drink if you're in control of that. But if you get carried away, the adrenaline is going to combine with the alcohol, and you'll sit on stage and it will hit you like a ton of bricks and everything will fall apart. I can tell you that from experience. There's nothing worse than thinking a bit of alcohol will help with all of this, because when you're in the gig, you're in the gig. There's no way out. Be very careful of that one. Only drink if you think you can really handle playing afterwards, and I recommend probably not. The other thing about playing live is don't beat yourself up. There are some situations where it might not be going right and it's completely out of your hands. This will make you feel nervous, but you can look at the situation and go, this isn't my fault. For example, if you decided to play a solo folk set at a metal night, it might not go so well. It might do, it might go incredibly well, but sometimes you have to look at things and think, okay, well, this isn't going well, but it's not my fault. It's not to do with my playing, it's not to do with my delivery, it's just to do with the environment I find myself in. And maybe that's a time when you think, well, where am I suited to playing? I've got to find somewhere where I can test this stuff first. Open mic nights are an amazing way of getting rid of nerves, because everybody else there is probably going to feel the same way. For some people, they'll be completely new to performing. Crucially, no one's paying you for it. When you're being paid for performances, that can bring about nerves, again, because you start thinking, well, if I'm making mistakes, you know, are people going to question why they're paying me? Open mic nights, there's no money involved. You can pretty much do what you want. You could turn up in a bare suit and play the banjo and probably just about get away with it. I'm not sure about the banjo aspect, but find testing grounds that you feel comfortable in, so you can just start to feel what live performance feels like and what that extra pulse rate feels like. One big thing about nerves is they can actually block you from performing. They can stop you playing live. You've got to learn how to overcome them in a situation that makes you feel comfortable to begin with, because nerves will make you create lots of different excuses for backing out of a performance situation, for backing out of anything in life generally. So you've got to be able to look at those situations and say, no, these are excuses. I need to overcome these. I need to overcome the nerves. Just get out there, do it, see how it feels, and most importantly, enjoy it, and then the nerves disappear completely. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you're a guitar player, don't forget that each month now you can study online with me at fingerstylefocus.com, where I'm sharing with you everything I've learned over 30 years of playing fingerstyle guitar. There's a 24-hour free access period, so you can check out the site, try some of the lessons, and see if it works for you. If you have any questions at all, just don't hesitate to get in touch. And also, tell me what causes you nerves and how you overcome them yourself. I'll see you next time.